there, Life in the Baggage Claim family. We are back. We took a week off again. It's been a tough time, as you all know, but hey, let's say today we are recording. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Sounds like you have an amazing time, and sounds like Mother Nature brought you the best gifts: rain, mosquitoes, and gnats.
Well, you're gonna host it. I'm sorry if for you around the country who have not. I grew up 50 miles from Washington D.C. We used to go to Washington D.C. all the time. More information than you need, but I'm an old fart. I made the grandfather clause in D.C. so I could legally drink at 18. So we spent a lot of time in D.C. Anybody who schedule something outside in DC in June or July needs their head checked. And that's all I'm going to say. It is hot. It is humid. It is.
Yes, it's the place to be in the summer.
Well, it's just
Why didn't Congress takes a recess?
it's like, I don't remember exactly, and I'm sure somebody will tell me in the comments, but I don't remember exactly when they changed to make the inauguration January 20th. By the way, for those who don't know, it wasn't always that way.
No, March, right?
Yeah, but I'm like, who the hell decided January 20th outside in DC made sense? Because
No, that's the same thing.
it's colder than balls. Anyway, Jim, you and I have, folks, if you've been listening, I have been having a pseudo existential crisis about what's going on in this country. And I had talked about, are we shouting at the wind? And Jim's been wonderful and helped me through that and everything else. And I do my best thinking in the shower because I have raging ADHD. And that's the one time when ritual takes over and I don't have all stuff coming at me so that I can just think. And I realized something has been bothering me for a while. And some of you are going to go, well, duh, but let me dig a little deeper. Donald Trump is not the problem. Now, Donald Trump is a problem, a big problem, but Donald Trump is not the problem. And I think I know what it is. And I'm not trying to say that I'm a sociologist or some genius, but I think talking to Trump supporters, and I do. I mean, I have family members who are Trump supporters and friends who are Trump supporters. What it is the victim mentality. And there's a huge victim mentality in this country. And, it's so funny. It's become cliche when people talk about the good old days and can we go back to the 50s and all of that. And it's the idea, and anyone with half a brain knows that the good old days were never the good old days. I mean, they may have been better financially or something like that. But if you people, let's go back to the 50s. And okay, you mean when women could be a nurse or a secretary and Black people didn't have any real rights. And
that satisfies a lot of white men, though.
I mean, now, if you want to, Wife and I were actually talking about this the other day. If you want to talk about going back to the 50s when one person in the household could work and support a family and 2.2 kids and have a house that didn't cost them $1 million a month and all of that, yeah, I would love to go back to that. But you can't go back to that without all the other stuff too. But what I think is it is much easier to be a victim than it is to be proactive. And I see a lot of people throw up their hands and go, well, the government's corrupt. The government's corrupt. Well, then so's the guy you put in power. I mean, you can't look at it through that lens. And what I realize is a lot of the people I talk to, those people have always been unhappy with their lot. They've always been unhappy with things that Jim and I are going to really dig deeply into on this episode. But they just never had anyone else with a victim mentality normalizing their petty feelings. And that's why I say Donald Trump's not the problem. He's a problem. But the problem is that these people who voted for Trump, especially the ones that pushed him over the edge this time. I'm not talking about the MAGA. I'm not talking about lockstep Republicans. And again, I'm not hammering these people. I'm making a point. You hear about the independents and the younger white males and all of that who pushed him over the edge. They all will tell you economy. Okay. Let's say for a minute that that's fact. I don't want to never tell somebody how they actually think, but let's say that for a minute is a fact. That means you ignored a whole lot of other stuff. And if this was 2016 and you rolled the dice, fine. I don't think you can see your nose beyond the end of your nose, but fine. You had 4 years of Trump and then 4 years of him bitching and pissing and moaning about Biden and how he would do everything differently even if he didn't. But Jim and I talked about, 2 weeks ago now, about being lied to. And what I also think is the bigger issue in this country is people feel lied to by their government. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I made the statement, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I believe it. I think all people have always been lied to by their governments. I think it's been on different levels, but I don't think there's ever been a time where the U.S. government fully told the electorate the truth. I don't believe that for a minute. But I think that's where conspiracy theories have exploded. Because when you feel betrayed, everything becomes corrupt and nefarious. Nothing can just be as it is. And the problem is I think that people can't quite figure out how to, I've talked about this before. I'm probably overly logical kind of guy, but I'll just go back to the RFK thing, because this is the first one popping in my mind. He was, a couple of years ago, the diabetes rate amongst in China was 5%. Now it's 50. Anybody who stops for a minute and goes, wait a minute, that can't fucking be right. That's that. There's maybe it is, but there's no part of that that feels right to me, at least. But there are people who will then jump into things like I was telling you about, I think a couple weeks ago, about my buddy who was talking about flat Earth. And I'm like, what did you look it up? It was like 300,000 pilots in the world or something like that. You really believe all of them are telling the same bullshit story? You really believe all of them are on the lie and no one's ever spilled beans? So, but I think this is what happens. And I do think Trump, and I promised myself I wouldn't hammer Trump too much on this episode because that's not the issue. But when you've got somebody like him who literally, somebody wrote it down, somebody posted it the other day, like when they were talking about the Iraq war. And I think we've won, decimated the military. They're so close to a nuclear bomb. Like they wrote it down, like we've won and yet need to attack them like 38 times. Like, cause he just keeps, and that kind of disinformation and barefaced lies, I'll just say it. I think that's what fuels the conspiracy theory, because people don't believe they can trust their government, which I agree with. But instead of saying it's this guy, the right or the MAGA folks have morphed it into, well, it's the system is lying to us. So that's what I'm going with.
What I think that's key there too is if there were lies in the 40s, the 30s, and the 1800s, you didn't have instant notifications about it. It took time to get through someone who would write it, type it, print it, distribute it. Mm-hmm. So stories in the news were 3, 4, 5 days old, sometimes even longer, right? There weren't headlines sitting at your post when you got home saying what happened today. I think that has changed the entire way we operate, because now we are operating in that in the moment reaction. So, I was an earthquake in Dallas. My God, everybody's dead. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, well, everybody didn't die. There were actually 10 people who died. And the next day, well, the earthquake was actually in Mexico, but it was felt in Dallas. And the next day, well, it wasn't really an earthquake, a UFO. It's that kind of thing, right? It's just, it morphs. And so if you latch on to the first thing you hear, you run. And you say, I've got a story. Oh my God, everybody's got to know this thing, right?
Right.
I don't apologize. It's been raining here, Texas. And I love it because the cedars and everything are right back in bloom just on time to make sure that I can't breathe or talk, which is maybe a good point. That's my message here. But it's one of those things. We get the first admitted information that you think is interesting or hits you in here and here where you want to hear it. And then you run to your friends. Right. So if I said to Chuck, oh my God, we proved that everything you said was right, Chuck, and ran to him and told that, he'd be like, wow, how'd you do that? I heard about him. And he'd be like, okay, well, wait a second.
Right.
So there's a point where it's good practice for everyone. When you hear something, take a minute and think. Give yourself a chance to breathe and then start saying, could that be real? What's the questions up here? Because your mind knows how to sort this shit out. What your eyes see, what your mind knows are very different, right? So when you hear bullshit, you can sort it out. Mm-hmm. And so I think we have a lot of psyops. Psychological warfare goes on these days because you can play these games. Someone can release a piece of information and it floods the media fast.
Well, and the other part of it, you said two interesting things there. First of all, you're talking about how information moves. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, it didn't move like that. And what I mean by that is the government couldn't move like that. And I'll give you an example. This blew my mind. I don't know if you knew this or not.
Let's pick the one if by land, choose by sea.
Well, exactly. Well, I don't know if you knew this or not. I'm going to get this a little wrong, but I think I'm really close. I was reading something, and this just blew my mind. The last county in the country, happened to be in Texas, don't ask me which one, I can't remember, that found out that the Civil War was over, found out 2 years later.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, and that's not an indictment of Texas or anything, what I'm saying is, if I can't get the information, something is huge, as something as humongous as the country being at a civil war being over for 2 years, then your government couldn't pick up a phone or something and call the fucking Philippines and say, the Navy in the Philippines and say attack. So things took longer too. So I have no doubt we were lied to. But the other thing is it's interesting you said that. If you're talking about hearing what you want to hear and not using your brain and all that, I see it with my MAGA friends and my conservative friends, and I'm not saying
liberal friends.
Hold on, I'm not saying Democrats don't do this. I'm saying that I feel confident saying that 90% of the conspiracy theories in this world are passed around by the right now. I could be wrong, but I feel confident in that number. But my point is, if you're a victim, if you feel like you're a victim, and that's been played into by the president and his cabinet and Fox News and everybody else, if you're the victim, then it becomes really easy to believe that somebody's trying to screw you again. Whatever that disinformation is, like you said, anything that comes out, if it either looks like you're being screwed again somehow, financially or otherwise, or those damn Democrats are doing such and such again. Well, like the whole thing about, oh my God, my Facebook feed blew up about Pride Month. Oh my God, Pride Month, Pride Month, Pride Month. And somebody said, all the, and I'm just going to say it, all the right wing Christians lost their shit about Pride Month. And somebody wrote, and I don't remember who it was because I'm probably don't even know who they are anyway, because I told you about my Facebook group, was basically bring it down to consumption. It's like, if you don't like it, don't deal with it. What they were saying is there now does not need to be a straight month. There has never been a time in this country, and I know, please, MAGA, if you're listening, or right wing folks, please bring it on because I will debate you all day long. There's still never been a time where being straight in this country has been an issue. And I'm sorry, if you're not allowed to say the shit you used to say about gay people without getting pushback, that's not you losing a right, folks. That's the world being righted. And what I mean by that is, my father told me a long time ago, run your mouth on the playground, son, but if you get punched in the mouth, it's your own damn fault for running your mouth. It's that simple. And again, I'm not advocating any kind of violence. I'm just saying white folks are finally getting pushback that they can't just say and do whatever the fuck they want. And they're screaming about, we're losing our rights. You never had that right to begin with. That was a privilege we're giving that same right back to other folks is what it is.
That's like one of my favorite entertainers that said, maybe we should put straight into LGBTQI plus S. Because then it would be just pride. It wouldn't matter who you were. We were good to you too. And I think that's always been my life. It's like, yeah, if you put straight people on there, would they still complain about
What? Or I think if you're a conservative Christian, I think a MAGA Christian, you should have to identify yourself as straight when you interview yourself to somebody. I'm sorry,
and Chuck knows I've said this.
introduce what I meant to say. Hi, I'm Chuck and I'm straight. I think you should have to do that.
I guess if the Chuck many times, I don't walk into a room and go, "Hi, I'm gay. My name is Jim."
Mhm.
It's not the thing, right? And I don't think I'd want Chuck walking in. I'm straight male. I'm a dom. I'm an alpha, and now my name is Chuck, right? Because I'd be
Right.
like, "Hey, dude, you got a lot of things to identify before I even know who you are."
Well, and that's the thing, the same people who are screaming about pronouns. I shouldn't have to care about your pronouns are the
I
same.
don't care about your pronouns either.
No, I know, but they're the same people who are screaming, we should know who people are. We should, people should announce themselves. It's like, you can't, fuck you. It can't be the same.
Give us 15 years, you'll have a chip. When you walk up, it'll feed to your brain and say, "This is what this person is and what they do. Be careful, raise it."
You know what scares me about that though? I can't remember what it's called, but there's a psychological thing. I read this or heard this amazing, I think it was a TED talk or something. And there is this phenomenon that once amongst some folks, it's a sociological phenomenon that once a person who was once, I got to choose my words carefully here, who was once subjugated as different or second class or whatever the fuck you want to call it, rises to a level of power, you see basically what it does is it gives folks feel like they have a right to then be even more racist or sexist or whatever. And I'll give you an example. I think it was in New Zealand, the first female prime minister they had. And they played clips of it. Now, this is a governmental body. So you can say it's this, that, the other thing. But it's just like if anybody's ever been to court, there's the court reporter. The court reporter writes exactly what is said. No embellishment. No, this is my opinion. They write word for word what's said. So this is a parliamentary thing. And some of the men are absolutely being horrible to her. Ugly. I mean, just not even trying to pretend. And they interviewed him afterwards and they're like, well, we elected a female prime minister. She should get the same vitriol that men get. Well, if you listen to the recordings, you're not calling men, stupid bitches and all of this kind of stuff, number one. And we saw this, and please, please, please bring it in the comments because I know people are going to say, we saw this when Barack Obama was elected. It became okay to be overtly racist. Donald Trump posting videos of he and his wife as monkeys. Fox News showing him the things with bones in his nose. I mean, things that never would have been done mainstream prior. But there's
When would you expect our president to call her a piggy? Or when would he, during an interview in a rainy night day at a barn in front of a tractor, throw his mic off and stomp off like the tantrum he did like a little child? You would have never seen that happen with Bush, Reagan, Johnson. I mean, nobody ever has called a reporter piggy and said you're fake news and you're stupid and you're corrupt. And bothers me because that empowerment to be that way with women and
Well,
people you don't like is
but,
wrong.
but see, that's that victim mentality. Because what I was going to say is, you're right. You would have never seen that. Why would you have never seen that, Jim? You could say, no, you could say that these people played by the rules of etiquette, or you could say it more importantly, which I believe is that would have been political suicide 10, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, I'll go back to it again. So for those of you too young to remember, when Howard Dean was running for president, he got excited. He was doing, he'd won a primary, and I don't remember which, and he was like, we're going to go to Ohio, and we're going to go to Wyoming, and we're going to go, and we're going to go, and wah! And he just let out this odd, I'll grant you, but exuberant scream that literally killed his political career. Now, he ended up being head of DNC for a while, but his presidential campaign that was like on Friday. His campaign was done on Monday morning. So I want everybody listening to think about it, even if you were alive and were, I want you to think about that. It was like 20 plus years ago. Man lost his candidacy because of a guttural scream because he was excited.
Let's talk about when Vice President Quayle couldn't spell potato.
Well,
credibility on after that.
Well, everybody laughed and moved on. But I want you to think about that. And right, Jim, you're 100% correct. Now we have a president, not a presidential candidate, but a president calling reporters stupid, fat, piggy. And if you look, I mean, he's gotten rid of 3 cabinet members now, and all 3 of them were female. And people will say, "Well, that's coincidence." Like, is it? What's the old rule? Once is an occurrence, twice is a coincidence, third time is a pattern. I mean, he's just, it's just and that's like I said, and that's the thing. Why would good people, and I mean this, why would good people not look at that and be disgusted and say, you can't treat people like, I mean, you can say, I don't like the questions she was asking. I think she was being shitty, whatever. You can, I don't think she was, but I'm saying you could say that. But why would good people go, well, she deserved that? Well, because King Victim is speaking to that petty part of them, that victim mentality part of them that says, these people are against my president. These people are against, so crazy because except 58 years old, I've always been politically astute, politically aware. I've never had a bumper sticker on my car. I've never bought a t-shirt or a hat, or I voted for Barack Obama twice. I'll tell you, I think Barack Obama was a fine president. The best president? No, but I think he was a fine president.
I voted for Ronnie twice. Do I think he was the best in hindsight? Nobody did something.
Who?
Ronnie.
Right. But again, I never was a cheerleader for him. I was never like, he's the greatest president ever and he speaks for me.
In fact, when Obama was in office, there was quite a few times I was like, why? What the hell are you doing? You're like, I wasn't necessarily thrilled at his choices.
You just said something huge. There's never been a president that I didn't say that about on some level and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, there have been presidents I've agreed with, and I'm pulling these numbers out of my rear, 90% of the time. There's presidents I've been agreed with 20% of the time. But there's no president, there's no leader, there's no boss I've ever had, there's no human being I have ever known, except for possibly my wife, because she might be lucky. No, who I've agreed with completely. Hell, I don't, and I mean this honestly, I don't agree with myself completely, because I'm the first one to go, boy, I screwed that up. I don't understand that mentality.
So this has been an interesting week because I reconnected with my friend who is on the other side, very much a Trump supporter.
Okay.
After it's probably almost been maybe 6-8 months, we haven't talked.
Yeah.
And I jumped on a call. I called him. I was just at that point where like, I need to talk to him. I hope he answers. He's probably one of the few people who gets me enough to be able to call me on my shit when I need to be called on my shit, right? Someone who could say, you're in a rut, get out of it, right? And I accept it. This is the guy I can talk to about politics without him, he might say I'm stupid for thinking what I'm thinking, and I can say, you're stupid, you're thinking, but we can have a conversation. I used to say, even with all the shit we were opposite on in politics, we were friends, and we could talk. And when the day was over, we knew we cared and got each other. He answered the phone, we talked, we laughed, we said, God, I missed this. But I reconnected, and part of it was I'm trying to solve things I broke, right? And that's one of those where I go, I let the system let me break him off. And that's so, I'm using that as an example to say he isn't the problem. He is part of the challenge, really. He's the person I can work with. And when we come together and agree on things, then we make sense, right? And I think everybody needs to start thinking that way. we're just time out from a mid-years, right? If you don't go out and vote now in this term, you are part of the problem. You made a conscientious choice to not participate, which means whatever goes wrong is your fault. You can't take credit for the wins either.
My
Now, when I vote, I don't care who wins. They're my candidate wants that they can.
my father always used to say, if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain.
And I think that's the truth.
I
If
do.
I want to see I want to see your vote sticker, and if you start telling me you got problems, say, did you vote? Show me, prove it. You know,
Right.
I don't care if you vote for somebody else. Vote for them. Vote whoever you want. But please use that right, because I'll tell you what, we'll lose in it before we go if you don't think.
Well, and if nothing else, please vote. And if you're and if you vote and the Democrats take the House and or the Senate, that'll just give Trump more chance to talk about election. Do
We'll hate everything, and we'll be right there bitching about the Senate and the new Congress that's Democrat and everything else.
No, what I'm saying is he'll have more chance for election denial. And it drives me crazy that people on the right can't or won't see that whenever it looks like he's going to lose, he starts screaming fake election. But you notice 2024 was fine.
Yeah.
There was no
So that was the year we really concluded that
well,
the
no,
Republicans
it was fine. There
were
was
Russians, right?
no, 2024 when Trump won and the Republicans took the House and the Senate. That was a fair and free election right there, man. That
Yeah.
really, really, really was. But I'm sorry, when any candidate, no other candidate in history that I'm aware of has ever been able to get away with this, says the only way we're going to lose is if they cheat. What? Think about that rationally for a minute. The only way I'm going to lose because I'm so fucking amazing and I'm doing such an amazing job is if they cheat. It can't be it can't be because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. It can't be because my polls are in the 30s. It can't be because I'm in a war. And did you see? And I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't. But goddamn it, sometimes things are just comical. Even if they're not comical, they're comical. Trump came out, was it I think Friday, and said we're near a deal with Iran. We're going to sign it any minute. And Iran came out and said, no, there's got to be change.
It's almost hilarious.
Right, there's got to be some. We're going to be some change before we find this puppy. And it goes back to that Mr. And I used to tell him, I've told my son this. My son's 29. Some of you have seen him. He's been on the show a couple times. I told my son a long time ago when he was old enough to understand. I said, if someone tells you something is absolute, they're either dumb or they're lying to you. When someone tells you that something is absolute, like this, I mean, other than the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. But if someone tells you, for example, that I'm the greatest president ever, or I am, or no, or anything
And if that
like
isn't
that.
the claim he makes every day, I'm the first one to do this, the first one to do that.
Yeah, all the time.
Anybody who can claim they're the first on something, you really have to question, because there aren't a lot of firsts left to do at this point. If he's the first one to go to Mars, I'll give him credit. And
Yeah.
maybe we have Elon make that happen.
Right.
So, hey, let's talk about a couple other things here because I think it's important. First of all, if this stuff gets you down, tune out. Stop. Turn the television off. Turn your Facebook feed off. Go watch a movie. Go see you play with your dogs. Find something else in your life to do. Go enjoy nature. Because if you're sitting in an echo chamber, it's going to drive you nuts because all you do is focus on it. And that's something I'm personally starting to find myself having to do. Doing this podcast, being engaged in politics, condition of my current situation in life and what's going on, I just get into this point where I'm like bumping between walls and a white coat. It's time to stop that. And if you're struggling with this, for help, it does help. Get medicated if you need to. Go see someone. Get some therapy. Talk to your friends. Talk to your wife. Have a conversation about something other than politics, other about the conditions of the world. Talk about how amazing it is that the sun does rise in the east and west. Although I will tell you, Chuck, that's not a certainty either because it does degrees of separation. Or talk about the fact that there's good things happening. The world is finding peace in places it didn't have before. The structure of things that change. Realistically, look at what's in your hands to control what you eat, live, if you water your grass at night. Don't focus on this stuff if it's getting too overwhelming because it's going to just take you in.
You're right, Jim, and I agree with you 100%. The only I agree, but the sad part about what we're living in right now is that well, no, it's if this were just right politics versus left politics, or if they were just, if they were passing a bill that, like the old bridge to nowhere, and I think that was where was that, in Maine or whatever the hell, or or Alaska or whatever. If it takes the word just right, if it's just the U.S. government spending our money with no common sense. That'd be one thing. But I talk to people every day. I mean, hey, it cost me $100 to fill up my gas tank and
Yeah.
I've got to get to
No,
work.
and I understand it hits you, right? There's no way out of seeing this or feeling
No,
it.
I'm agreeing with you in a roundabout way. What I'm saying is, yes, folks, please go get help, mental help if you need it. Please talk to somebody. Stop talking about politics, because this is one of those times you can't stop thinking about politics. Like I said, if it's just Congress and the president passing bills that make you scratch your head, that's one thing. But this is hurting people. And I think I read, and I don't know if this is true or not. It certainly seems like it from the folks I talked to. But I read something the other day that like 50% of the American people are putting gas and groceries on credit cards just to make it through. And and
And
and,
they can do
and
that while watching bulls get gilded gold. And yeah, I get
right.
it. It's very hard to conceive how you can spend $5 million to fix a reflecting pond and have people who can't afford to eat or get healthcare.
Well, and that's what I was saying. Jim and I were talking about before we started recording. When you've got that much stress on you that you can't get away from, like paying bills and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, that is the time to reach out to folks, to talk to folks and ask for help and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I know, and both Jim and I are both Southern men. We were raised to not, ask for help and
I'm a man.
you know what I mean? But I mean, just to make it through and, put on a proud, happy face, put on a strong face and all that.
Yeah.
But in times like this, man, you've got to don't implode, please. Don't let this get to you to the point where you can't find, well, like Jim said, don't let it get to you, if possible, to the point where you're yelling at your kids or you're mad at your spouse or your partner, or you're losing time with your family, like quality time.
Most women get beaten, dogs get kicked right after the football team loses, right?
Right.
But I will say this, my friend Bill Johnson here in Dallas said something that really hit me good. Just if you're part of a community, that's your opportunity to be vulnerable. It's your opportunity to let your shield down because you're in with people who care about you. So if you have people who care about you, then let that down. Be vulnerable in the moment. It actually releases more stress, gives the oxytocin growth, all those kind of things happen.
Right.
And then when you do get hit with the stressful thing and the walls need to go up, they don't go up so fast. Because right now everybody's in this up.
Well, the other thing is too, you're right, Jim. And even if you and your neighbor are both having financial problems, get together and bitch about it. Yeah, bitch about it.
Talking with someone on Nextdoor last night through a chat. She had posted she had been without work 6 months. She's had a hard time making money to pay her kids, feed her kids. And I wrote back and said, listen, I've been unemployed for 2 years. I pray every day that I'm going to find something. And then she wrote back, she says, oh gosh, you got it worse than me. I says, that's not why I reached out to you. I just wanted you to know I put you in my prayer list as well.
Right. Well, it just helps normalize things sometimes, because I know as human beings, especially if you're, and I hate to say this is not a sexist statement, but this country especially is set up where men are supposed to be strong and we're supposed to be the breadwinners. And now I know that's changed a lot, thank God. I mean, I think I've been very honest with the fact my wife makes twice what I do, and I'm fucking proud of her, and she's amazing and all of that. But there's still this, I'm supposed to be, strong for my wife and all of that. And I try to be. Well, no, I try to be, but in a time like this, if you keep it inside, you're gonna blow. And what you're gonna end up doing, because it's not only is it human nature, it's fucking proximity, you're gonna blow at the people you love the most. You're gonna blow with your partner, you're gonna blow at you're gonna no, I mean, you're gonna blow up at your kids. You're going to say something you're going to regret later, because we never blow up. Well, I shouldn't say we never. We rarely blow up at strangers. We blow up at the people
That's called road rage.
that's Karen behavior. Yeah. But no, I mean, usually we blow up at the people we love because we feel safe and we feel like, oh, well, they'll probably forgive us. And that's probably true, but you only kick a dog so many times before it doesn't come around anymore. And I would hate for the world to be the way it is right now, when we don't have any fucking control over it at this moment. And I know we can vote people, we can vote in and out in November, but November's a long fucking way away. And you figure November's a long way away. And more importantly, January is a long way away. So
the real date is 2+ years away.
Right. January is the date we need to worry about. That's when things, if they change hands, when they change hands. And it makes me sick at my stomach to think if the Democrats take the House and or the Senate in November, what crazy shit is Trump going to do between November and January?
Well, that's what I think the best thing I've heard, and maybe you even told me this, Chuck, is that let's not impeach him. Let's let him stay in office for 2 years and make the things he wants to try happen,
right,
and watch it be stopped.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a healing that everybody needs.
Well, and I said that a couple of weeks ago, and I stand by that. If don't do impeachment, just and don't do the Trump did this, Trump did that. I know you and I do that, but we're also not in the government. But no, I think the smartest thing they could do is start floating bills that literally help you and I every fucking day. Medicare for all,
Citizens relief.
that benefits back in place, refund Medicare, all of these things, and make, I'm not trying to say this in a petty way, but make the Republicans who are still in Congress, make them say out loud, no, I don't back these things that will help everyday Americans, and make Trump veto it. Make Trump veto it. And say, not to be shitty or petty, but just to be like, this helps the American people. Put your money where your mouth is. Vote yes, vote no. But then go back to your constituents and say, yeah, I know you guys are hurting, but I voted against this because Trump asked me to, or whatever, for whatever reason. So, yeah.
There's also positives in seeing that the graduates coming out of schools right now are starting to get a voice earlier than you usually see. I see changes in younger folks starting to listen and tune in. I think my favorite was the gentleman who received the award on CBS News, who got up there and basically told CBS News they were part of the problem right now. And I thought, how empowering that he still felt that right to say that. And the fact that you and I could be here, Chuck, and talk like this every week. We can respond to our viewers every week. We can talk through things that in some countries would have us put up in jail cells somewhere is pretty amazing. And speaking of that, I drove by the detention center they're building here in Dallas, down in Southern California. It's a nice facility, it's not the worst.
On the
outside, I went there to reserve my bed. So that
they didn't give you a tour of the inside, though, right?
Just being built.
So, Jim, do we have a baggie this week?
Sure. But I'm going to do it on a fun note. I'm going to give it to Mother Nature for bagging the entire summer of Trump's birthday.
I like that. Yeah, I somebody was talking about, I was reading somewhere, and I apologize to those of you who listen and get mad in the comments where I don't come with receipts. Fine. which is hilarious to me, because watch Fox News for half an hour if you can stomach it. When do they ever bring receipts? They just talk out of their ass. And anyway, sorry. No,
I do watch Fox News. I watch everything. Watch them all.
I do too. I watch it. I can get about half an hour at a time before I want to vomit. But no, put his name on the Kennedy Center, bulldozed the East Wing, built that
arena on the White House lawn,
that god awful looking thing, UFC thing, which is corporate sponsored. He puts out that coin, that $12,000 coin, which has no monetary value. Only Trump would put out a coin that literally has no monetary. I mean, when I buy a coin, I want to know what it's worth. It should have a face. Sorry, it shouldn't say monetary, face value, no face value. And I am gonna get political for half a second. James Comer, for 3.5 fucking years, drug everybody he could before his committee to because they just knew. And again, I am not defending Biden in any way, shape, or form. They just knew Joe Biden was a crook and had made money off of his name. They just knew it. Couldn't find any evidence, but they knew it. For 3.5 years, they spent our time and our money trying to find that. The minute he dropped out of the race, magically that didn't matter anymore. So that was obviously a political thing. But we have a president literally making money off, just right out, not even pretending that he's not, right out in front of the American public, selling these coins and Bitcoins and Bibles and fucking hats and everything else. And the Republicans are like, well, he's a businessman. He's a businessman.
And all those things coming from China.
Right. But their whole thing is, well, he's a businessman. Or like Mike Johnson, who, in my opinion, and you give the Baggy Award, but my opinion is Mike Johnson should get the Baggy Award for lifetime. Is like, well, he's doing it out in the open. Like, what?
Yeah, the fact that you can justify it says everything about you.
Yeah, so
So if I walk into a house and I say, hey, by the way, the news, I'm going to murder people tonight at this address at this time, which is kind of what the billet was at the award.
That's what I was going to say. I shoot somebody and I run and you catch me later, or I shoot somebody right in front of everybody. How that makes it bad.
I did it in the open. It's not a crime.
Is that less murdery? Unbelievable.
Just ask Pam Bondi or not Pam Bondi, what's her name? Say it before she goes in, All bullets will fly tonight.
That's right. Unbelievable.
All right, folks. It's been a week since we've been here. We took time off, and I think Chuck's got a few last words, and we're going to start wrapping.
Well, Jim, we talked about some heavy stuff, so here's your happy ending. Jim, last month, a California condor flew into Oregon before returning after several hundred miles to its home in Redwoods National Park, became the first condor recorded in the state since 1904.
Did they charge taxes?
Probably. Right, yeah, interstate taxers. Taking a closer look, condor conservationists among North Americans Yurok tribe concluded it was condor B9, an animal that is born in captivity and released into the wild in 2022 by the Yurok. The animal flew a grand total of 380 miles in 4-day loop, starting high in the redwoods before passing Redding in Northern California and then entering Oregon. It made stops near Medford, Cave Junction, and Brookings before recrossing the state lines and returning to the national park. She flew almost 100 miles a day, William Clausen said, which means she was really utilizing the landscape the way that only a condor can, really taking advantage of the mountains and riverways that give good flight corridors. Encouraging milestones come more often these days, however, and indeed the redwood's population has made such mini history when in February a female laid an egg in the hollow of a redwood tree in a remote corner of the park. Though it failed to hatch, it was the first time that had happened in over 100 years. Even with the egg loss, there was still a really amazing milestone for us, she said. It's pretty common eggs will fail this first year as their native parents are really figuring it out.
Wow, pretty awesome.
And those of you who listen often, I try my best to put nature stuff in because I feel like nature should be anti-political. We should all be happy that condors are thriving and getting, because I don't know if anybody remembers, but it's because of what was the chemical that fucked their eggs all up? Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, in the 70s, I think it was, I'm not going to say which company because I don't want to get sued, but was it Dow?
it was Dow.
I knew it was Dow or DuPont. I mean, let's face it, those,
DuPont, yeah, sorry, DuPont.
well, I
That's
was
it.
saying, no, those are the two.
They were California.
Yeah, those are the two big ones, but they were putting something in the atmosphere that caused
It
condors.
was part of the Teflon.
Yeah,
Right?
the eggshells became so thin that they couldn't sustain life, and through this conservation effort, we're finally getting condors back. And I'm sure somebody in the comments are going to go, "What the fuck do I care about a bird?" Well, then don't care. It's just like the Pride Month thing. If you don't
You never
care,
know what species you eliminate.
yeah, if you don't care, don't consume it. But damn it, I'm happy. I would have loved to have seen that condor fly, and
Mm.
it's a beautiful thing. So that's
All
all I
right.
have, Jim.
All right. Well, another week for the books.
Woo!
It's middle of June. Happy birthday, Donald Trump. We appreciate you for all you deserve. And folks, we'll see you again. We'll try to be on weekly again. It's just been a tough time. We're getting through it too. We're with you. Again, talk to your family, talk to your friends, look for help if you need it, and look for that positive moment in your life. There's every day, find something that's just good enough to say it's good. All right.
Thank you,
Bye.
folks. Have a good one.